A new development in Thursday's deadly bridge collapse. Florida's Department of Transportation says an employee from the engineering firm working on the project warned the department of cracking in the bridge before it fell. The department released audio of a voicemail the employee sent where he warns them of issues that will need repairs. Take a listen.
Hey, Tom, this is Denny Pate with Big Bridge Engineers. I was calling to share with you some information about the FIU pedestrian bridge and some cracking that's been observed on the north end of the span, the pylon end of that span we moved this weekend. So we've taken a look at it, and obviously some repairs or whatever will have to be done. But from a safety perspective, we don't see that there's any issue there. So we're not concerned about it from that perspective, although obviously the cracking is not good and something's going to have to be, done to repair that. But
officials say the search and rescue phase has ended and they expect the death toll to rise. Manuel Bojorquez has more.
This surveillance video shows the moment the 950 tons of concrete and steel collapsed.
The bridge fell on us,
crushing at least 8 vehicles and shearing others in half. People jumped out of cars and ran out of offices to help, including Dr. Rebecca Martinez, who spoke with correspondent David Begnaud about one rescue.
The man that was bleeding from the face kept holding her hand and saying, "Please don't leave me, please don't leave me."
What will you never forget?
How desperate that man was.
Today, Miami-Dade Police Director Juan Perez said crews could find more bodies in the rubble.
We just want to find out what occurred, what caused this collapse to occur, and people to die.
This afternoon, crews started the risky job of demolition as investigators began their work, which includes looking into reports a stress test was being done when the walkway collapsed. State Representative Carlos Curbelo.
If this is the case, is why was the road underneath open during the stress test?
In a tweet, Florida Senator Marco Rubio offered this scenario. The cables that suspend the Miami bridge had loosened, and the engineering firm ordered that they be tightened. They were being tightened when it collapsed. Plans for the bridge included a tower and cables attached to the walkway. But a week ago, the university and its builders celebrated the installation of the pedestrian span and the accelerated bridge construction method, partly developed at the school. It involves building bridge components off-site to minimize traffic interruptions and risk. Carol and Jorge Fraga were searching for their family member, Rolando Fraga.
The waiting is so, it's nothing I can imagine.
Somebody got to be responsible for that. Somebody got to pay for it.
Manuel Bojorquez joins me now from Sweetwater, Florida. Manny, Florida officials said late Thursday they had transitioned from a search and rescue mission to one of recovery. Has law enforcement given any indication of how many more fatalities they could find?
They really haven't. They're trying to stay away from numbers because things are so fluid. They could always change, and they don't want to give any family members who may have someone they haven't been able to reach any indication that the worst news has happened. So they're trying to be very careful with that. But they're also trying to be careful with this. As you can see behind me, the situation has changed from 24 hours ago when you had a part of the bridge that was still standing. They've been able to bring that down. So that's really painstaking work of trying to break up those large slabs of concrete while at the same time trying to delicately recover the bodies of those who died here.
And Manny, other than locating additional victims, what are the main focuses of the investigation at this point?
Many parts to this investigation, according to officials, looking not only at the design of the bridge, but the way that it was built, the way that it was transported here to be put into position just under a week ago, and really anything that people will bring up that could be a possible sign of negligence or of wrongdoing. They're not saying there was at this point, but anything will be looked into, and if there is a need for any charges, they said they will file them.
Absolutely. Now, as you mentioned, crews began the process of dismantling the bridge on Friday. Is that process completed now, or is there still more to be taken down?
What they really wanted to do is create a safe area for the crews to work as they continue to recover some of the bodies and the cars that are down there. And as we mentioned, that includes removing any of the parts of the bridge that were unstable, or at least bringing those parts down to the ground. So we saw one of the machines that was back there earlier today just really hammering at one of the concrete slabs, trying to break it down into smaller pieces that can then be carted away. You'd imagine, of course, that some of those pieces will also be handed over to investigators as they look at the concrete and try to figure out if there were any deficiencies there.
Now, Manny, you mentioned in your piece something that I'm sure a lot of people would like to know more about, that the bridge was built using the method of so-called accelerated bridge construction, which I guess is supposed to reduce risks to workers and minimize traffic, although it didn't work out that way this time. Can you tell us about that process and if investigators are focusing on it as a potential factor in the collapse?
Yeah, they'll be looking at that as a potential factor, looking at everything really. But that method is one that's been developed partly here at the university, and it's one that tries to minimize the impact on traffic by building the bridge and its components off-site and then bringing them to the place where they're going to be located. And in fact, earlier they had time-lapse video of that last part, that walkway swinging, if you will, into place. So this is a process that has been used for other bridges across the country. That's not to say that those other bridges are unsafe. You may have some people who are reviewing them right now, but clearly because this was built with that method, it is something that investigators will look at to see if there were any problems there.
All right, Manuel Bojorquez in Florida, thank you so much for your reporting.
Thank you.